Well, good morning, folks, and welcome back. Cumberland Outdoorsman out here in the woods testing out a wingbone turkey call made from the wing bones of a wild turkey that I harvested this past spring. Long before the first white man came to the American continent, and even longer before they started hunting wild turkeys, the Native American Indians were hunting those turkeys, and they were using calls like this right here, made from the wing bones of another wild turkey. It's only fitting. These were used long before mouth calls, slate calls, and even the first box calls. And they can still be used effectively today. You have to practice, and the sound that you get is actually not from blowing into the call, it's from making a sucking sound with your lips. Kind of like a kissing sucking sound, like. And the end of the call here, which is the mouthpiece, this is the smallest bone that's actually in the front part of the wing. They're joined together, and I'll show you how to do that, to this larger bone right here, which is at the base of the wing. And this is what I would call the horn. That sound travels through the call and is amplified and accentuated as it goes through, and then you can control that sound by using your hands and the way you cup the call at the end. You can make soft calls such as clucks. Soft yelps. Or you can get loud with it. And I'll tell you, especially if you're dealing with public land turkeys where they've heard every kind of friction call, every type of diaphragm call, they could tell you probably if it's a 2-reed or a 3-reed or a 4-reed diaphragm call. They've not heard this call right here, folks, because nobody that I know personally actually uses a wingbone turkey call. Now, there are trumpet calls out there which are pretty much made along the same lines as a wingbone turkey call, but this is the authentic item right here. This is made from the wing bones of a wild turkey gobbler. So if you want to learn how to make one of these and learn how to use it, this is the video for you. Believe me, you can actually get a response from one of these calls and be able to successfully call that turkey in. And it's just so gratifying and so fulfilling to know that you use something that you made yourself, something natural like this, to be able to successfully harvest a wild turkey gobbler. Now I've got one here that's completed. I've added some wild turkey feathers from the gobbler that I harvested, and I added a lanyard so that I can carry it around my neck. And the way I attach this lanyard, I can give you a close-up here. I used a spent .22 cartridge case, and I punched a hole through the middle of it, and that actually holds the lanyard to the call a little bit more closely. And I did the same thing with these wild turkey feathers. This is just to kind of give it a little bit of a decoration, so to speak, and give it a flair of authenticity, because the Native American Indians were the first ones that used these, and that's where we got the idea. Now I've got a couple more here that are currently under construction. As you can see, I added that wire loop there on the end, and that's to attach the lanyard. So let's see what one of these sounds like. Pretty good, folks. So anyway, follow along with me in the video if you're interested in making one of these. You don't necessarily have to use a wild turkey wing bone if you don't have one. The only other way I know that you might get one without harvesting it yourself is if you can contact one of your friends, if they may have a frozen turkey in their freezer that they harvested this past spring, and you can get the wing bones out of it. But you can also go to the store and buy a turkey, and you can make a wing bone turkey call from a butterball. But really you want to use a wild turkey wing bone if you can. So like I said, follow along with me and I'll take you through the process. Okay guys, I've got a pair of wings here out of a wild turkey that I harvested this past spring, and that's what we'll be making the wing bone turkey call out of. One of them I've already trimmed. This is the set of primary feathers that I saved for arrow fletching. These make superb arrow fletching. I've got a video on that. If you haven't seen that, go back and check it out. But save these feathers because they're very useful for that. Now I've got this wing here already trimmed out. I've got the 3 bones already separated from the meat, and we'll be cutting the ends off and boiling the bones in a solution to remove the fat and meat off of the bone. But just to demonstrate real quickly on how to separate the bones from the meat, it's pretty simple. And here I've got this wing laid out on the table, and I'll be showing you in detail how to do that. Okay, first of all, you need a good sharp knife. Make sure the blade is really sharp because the tendons on these wings are very tough and they're kind of hard to get through. So make sure that your knife has got a good keen edge on it. You want to flip it over, and first of all you want to cut into the meat right here between these 2 bones at the front section of the wing that actually has the secondary feathers attached to it. And I just cut right along the length of the bone, cut right through the skin and through the muscle, and just trim it or fillet it right off of the bone there. Cut right through that tendon and sinew. Make sure you don't cut yourself. And these 2 bones will actually separate once you get down past the meat and the tendons. Actually, all 3 of these bones will separate. Because all they are is just joined together by ball sockets. And that's the same way that this was attached to the main part of the turkey. It's just a ball socket right here. You don't want to damage this because this is the end of the largest section. This is the horn end. This is what really amplifies the sound for you. Pardon these flies out here. The temperature is starting to go up, so the flies are going to come in here. They're attracted to the smell of this meat. Like I say, I just cut right through, right down to the bone, separate the muscle and the skin and the tendon. That's the hardest part to get through, is the tendons. These are very powerful muscles because it takes a lot to get a turkey off the ground. So, you know, they have very strong muscles in their wings, very stoutly built, because wild turkeys can fly very well. I've seen them sail right over treetops and fly completely out of sight, you know, so they're very good flyers. They're not like your barnyard turkey. Wild turkey is a completely different creature in that respect. As you can see, that meat's rolling right off of there very easily. I actually save this meat, believe it or not. Some people would just throw it away, but I save all this meat and I cook it together with other wild meat such as squirrel or rabbit. It just goes together very well. Okay, now we've got all the feathers separated from the two bones themselves. Now it's just a matter of trimming off all the excess meat and sinew. Alright, now we can go ahead and separate the three bones right here at the joint. They're just held together by sinew or tendon. Same thing with these two bones here. And then we're just going to trim off the rest of the meat. You can leave it on there if you want because it's going to boil off anyway. But it's just a little easier. It saves a little bit of time if you just trim it off right now. Okay, here I am in the kitchen and I've got the meat that I trimmed off of that turkey wings and a squirrel in here that my grandson harvested yesterday. And I've got it in a solution here with some avocado oil and some steak seasoning. And we're going to stick it in the oven and let that cook. On about 350 degrees. Put a few little holes here at the top. I'll stick that in the oven. But aside from that, what I've got here are my wing bones that we need to trim right now. And what I'm using is this flush cut saw. And we're going to just cut the knuckles off the ends of the wing bones. I use this cutting board here. Just like that. We'll get them all trimmed off here. I'll go ahead and get them all done, and then we'll put them in the solution. Okay guys, I've got a pot of water here that I'm going to be bringing to a boil, and I've got a little bit of Palmolive dishwashing detergent in the water because that'll help to attack the fat that's in these bones. And what you want to do is you don't want to trim it all the way off, just trim off the very ends because you can always trim off more later once these bones are clean. Try to keep them a little bit longer than what you think you might need, and we'll let them boil in there, boil in that solution. And I also like to use a little bit of borax. Here I've got some Mule Team borax. Take about a tablespoon of it and put it in there with the solution. And we'll let that boil until the meat comes right off the bones. You want those bones to be nice and clean. Well, okay guys, here we are several hours later, and I've changed the water out on these bones about 3 times already. And I think they're about ready to be taken off, so I'll go ahead and turn this off and I'll pan down here and show you. There's the bones at the bottom of the pot, and I change this water out once every hour and a half or so, and that'll get all the grease and fat off of the bones, and it'll also make all the meat fall off. Okay, while that's cooling off, we'll check on the meat that we've been cooking in the oven today. I really don't like to waste any meat of any game animals that I've harvested, because I just think ethically it's a sin, you know. So I try to make use of every part of that animal if I possibly can. Well, let's see how tender this stuff is. I've got some squirrel and what's left over of that turkey in here. Yep. That's pretty good, folks. And if that squirrel is tender, then I'm going to go ahead and put it in the skillet. This cooks a lot of flavor into the meat, and it also helps tenderize it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn on some cold water here, cool off these bones, and get all the detergent out of this pot. We got to let these bones cool down and also let them dry off good. Now we're going to run just really hot water in here, and that'll help dry these bones up. I want to get them good and hot, and then I'll lay them out and let them dry up. All right, that looks pretty good right there, folks. So I'm just going to lay them out here on my sink and let them dry out. Now it's time to clean this pot real good before you use it for any cooking purposes. Well guys, I think I'm going to have to arm wrestle with my grandson for this meat, but here's a piece of it here right out of the skillet. This is from the turkey. Nothing wrong with that. I salvage every little morsel of meat as I possibly can off of anything that I harvest. That's just as tender and tasty as it can be. So anyway, I'll let this get done, and then I'll finish with the turkey bones and making our wingbone turkey call. Okay guys, I got all my bones out here and I've let them dry up, and I've been using a piece of coat hanger wire and running it down through the middle to remove the bone marrow out of these bones, because you really need all that stuff out of there. It needs to be just pure bone, just clean. You can see I blow a lot of that stuff out. And that one there looks pretty clear. Same goes for the bigger bones. You want to get all that cleaned out. And then on these really big bones, you've got this webbing on the end. You need to get all that out. Now I'm going to be trimming this off because we don't need that much. And I've got a Dremel here with several different bits. So I'm going to go ahead and trim these bones off right now. And this does a really clean job. That's the piece I like to use. It has a cutting rotary type file at the end, and this makes really quick work of this. So you can see where I'm hollowing that out. Let me get these hollowed out and I'll be right back with you. Okay, now I got these hollowed out pretty well. This one here, I about ruined it because I cut through the bone just a little bit on that side, and the bone cracked right there a little bit. But you know what? By the time I get done with this, you're not even going to be able to tell, because I'm going to be epoxying it back together anyway. So now it's time to go ahead and shape these parts where they'll fit together. We'll start out with this one here, and we're going to go ahead and do a little grinding on the outside. Okay, that's starting to take shape. And this one here needs a little bit of grinding on the outside of this one. While I'm grinding on that, I'm going to be shaping the mouthpiece as well. So I'm going to round it off a little bit. There you can see how that's shaped. It's kind of like the end of a smoking pipe. And that's what a wingbone turkey call looks like when it's fitted together correctly. Let's give it a quick try here. That sounds pretty good right off the bat. I'll tell you what, that's going to make a good turkey call right there. All right, let's go ahead and get these other pieces fitted together, and then I'll be back with you. Well, here we have both wingbone turkey calls fitted together. And as you can see, there's the one that has the crack in it, but I'm going to fill that in with epoxy, and that little hole right there where I accidentally went through when I was hollowing it out. But I can get all that fixed up and epoxy together, and we'll sand it down, sand all the bone down, and we'll make a lanyard for each one of these. Well guys, I've been out here this evening sanding and fitting these turkey calls together and getting them smoothed down and tuned and everything using my Dremel tool here. And now that I've got them fitted together the way I want them, I'm going to be epoxying them together with this clear epoxy. Let me show you what I got on the table. I got about a half a dozen of them here. Some of these are from bones that I've saved from the past. I've got a few more here that I still need to work on, but that'll be for another day. And here I'm just going to pick one out and demonstrate what I'm talking about. These joints right here where I've got them fitted together, they're not sealed yet. Of course, this won't sound as good as it does once it's all completed, but I'll demonstrate real quick. I think I've got this one tuned pretty well. I like to shape them like this because, you know, if you hold them like this with the mouthpiece facing you, the horn goes out naturally instead of having it go down. You can tell that reaches way out there. That's the kind of sound we're looking for out of these calls. I'll try to tone it down a little bit. I think these would make some great locator calls. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix this epoxy up and get them glued together and let them set up and hardened, and then I'll finish them up tomorrow. Be back with you then. Well guys, once you got your call put together, you need a way of carrying it around in the woods, and what I like to do is put it on a lanyard. Now to attach your call to a lanyard, what I do is I take a piece of steel wire, and this is some wire I had laying around, and I wrapped it around the shank of a Phillips head screwdriver and then twisted it together to get that loop. And then I drilled a hole in this direction right at the base of this second bone here and epoxied that in there. Once the epoxy sets up, I wrap some high strength wire or high strength thread around the base of that. As you can see, I leave some of that loop exposed so that the thread will hold that on there, or the wire. And then once that's wrapped around there, I epoxy that as well to keep the thread or the wire from unraveling. Now the cordage that I use, I got at my local hardware store. It's kind of like 550 cord, only it's a little bit thinner, but it's really good high strength cordage to use for a lanyard. And this stuff here comes in different colors. I just chose this camouflage color because I just like the way it looks. You choose whatever color you like. And then what you do is you can do this many different ways. You can either wrap string around it, but what I like to do is take a 22 cartridge case that's been fired, and I punch a hole through the base of it there, or through the head of it, so that it's hollow all the way through. And then I feed my cord, both ends of it, right through there, just like that. And it's a little bit tricky. You'll have to put the ends together and try to get both of them through there at the same time. It can be somewhat difficult, but what you have is this right here. As you can see, I got both of these loops here through that 22 spent cartridge case, and then that's looped around my wire loop. Okay, what you want to do is go through the eye of the loop, just like that. You don't have to use the spent 22 cartridge case. Like I said, you can tie this together to kind of keep everything centered up, but you want to cut your lanyard long enough so that it hangs down like this. You know, you got plenty of room. You don't want it up tight against your throat or anything. You just want some nice comfortable room so that it hangs close to your belly down here, just like this, from the center of your chest on down, right around your stomach. That'll give you plenty of room to get it up to your mouth and use it, you know, and move it out of the way if you need to. And the way I like to attach the ends together, you can either tie them together however you want to, but what I do is I'll actually light the ends of this stuff and melt it. Get both of these lit at the same time here, and then just stick them together. Just like that. And hold it together until it hardens. You can do this with 550 cord as well, and if it's done correctly, it'll hold together very tightly, you know. You'll have to test it out, and if it doesn't want to hold together, then try it again until it wants to hold together. So anyway, while that's still soft, I'm going to take it apart because I just don't need that on there right now. I'm not finished with this yet. But either way, that's how to attach your lanyard to your finished turkey call. Now, one thing I should point out, that if you don't like the color of this bone the way it is, the natural color, you can stain it, you can paint it whatever color you want. If you want to paint it camo, that's fine. You know, just don't add anything too heavy or anything that will alter the sound of the call itself. But however you want to decorate it, that's entirely up to you. Here I've attached a wild turkey feather to the end of this one, and I may go ahead and add more all the way around just to help decorate it and give it that nice authentic look. But however you want to decorate it, that's entirely up to you, and that's the beauty of a project like this. You make the decisions on how it turns out. Well guys, that pretty much does it for the construction and use of a Wingbone turkey call. And like I said before in the video, if you don't have access to a wild turkey wing, you can certainly go to the store and buy a store-bought turkey and use the wing bones out of it. Anatomically speaking, they're generally the same, but ideally you want to use a wild turkey wing bone. And you know, if you have some friends that might have a turkey in the freezer from a gobbler that they harvested this past spring, ask them if you can use the wing bones out of that turkey. I'm sure they'll be happy to oblige. So that pretty much concludes this video, but let me leave you with some closing thoughts. Remember, if you decide to make one of these calls, you got to practice with it. Now you've got all summer long. You've got fall and winter before the next turkey season rolls around. I'm releasing this video after most all the turkey seasons are over with. So, you know, if you want to undergo the process of making one of these calls, follow along just like I showed you in the video and practice with the call. It's a lot of fun, and it can really help boost your confidence in the spring turkey woods if you can make a wild turkey gobbler respond to your call. You know, you can always switch off to a slate call or a mouth call or whatever, something that you're accustomed to. But if you can actually make one gobble using one of these calls like I have, I'll tell you what, it really helps your confidence level soar sky high. So with that being said, remember, if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, whatever your outdoor pursuit might happen to be, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. But also remember, hit that like button, smash the bell icon, and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this one will be coming your way. So until next time, y'all take good care of yourselves, stay safe, and God bless. I'll be seeing you.